All right, guys, it's Friday, which means another live day. Let's get to it. Let's invite the guest of honor first and get started. So, all right, I can see John. So we're waiting for. Yep, great. Hey, man, can you hear me? Yes, same here. Copy that. I am so happy that we finally met because we have been collaborating, just kind of negotiating this thing for a long time. And first things first, I think I need to tell the audience about you because this is one hell of a guy, guys. This is one of the very few native speakers I actually look up to when it comes to both teaching, and like speaking, and the way you teach, the way you introduce the material is just amazing. So I thought it would be a great idea for us to have a stream together, right?
Great, yeah, likewise. I love your work as well. We've talked to each other for a long time, but never
right. It's the first time,
face.
but there is a first time for everything. All right, so we may want to start now. Maybe you should start with talking a little bit about yourself and then the theme itself. All right.
Yeah, so I'm John. I'm an English teacher who's been teaching in some capacity for 20 years, probably. That's how old I am. Also have worked as a journalist as well. So that's my background, that's my qualification. And then I moved into teaching more permanently recently. Then went out on my own, as in self-employed. I work online now. I've also left Ireland. I'm living in Spain. So I'm learning again another language, and it's been really good because it was a long time since I learned a new language, and that process is again familiar to me but of course living in a country without the language, it was the first time for me. So I was thrown in at the deep end, and but I can very much relate to my students now, and I think as well as that, it makes you a better teacher as well, because you understand a lot more of the mistakes that your students make as well. So yeah, that's.
So you're born and bred in Ireland, which is not the Northern Ireland, obviously, but the Republic of Ireland, right? And now you have relocated to Spain, for good, permanently, I guess, right?
Who knows?
All right. Anyways, I think it's going to be very interesting because, again, I think Irish English is kind of underrepresented. We need to talk about this more. It's very interesting to, even wrap our head around the variety of accents, which is the epitome of English, right? So, anyways, the topic is what's your favorite English, right? And obviously, we're going to talk about varieties, all right? We had two favors to ask, our followers. The first one, the question was, what is your favorite English, guys? And I know that you have plenty of answers, right? Plenty of responses. All right? Yeah, same with me. And the second is a myriad of questions, about Irish English. So I think we're going to make it a special point of our discussion today. So let's start with the first question. What is the most dominant variety that your followers like?
I would say the most common answer. Let's talk about the most common answer first. I don't know about you, but the most common answer I got was British English.
In my case, it was also British English, and some interesting comments like, I love them all, but British accents make my world spin on every axis,
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I heard as well. My followers would be quite biased as well because I've got a lot of followers who live in Ireland, are studying English in Ireland, and of course they love Irish English as well, and they like the accents as well. Um, but you know, Irish English is predominantly British English anyway. We just have modified it a little over time because we're not on the same island either, you know. So, but I'll talk more about that. But yeah, the most dominant answer I got was British English. A lot of people said they like the way it sounds. They like trying to mimic it, to imitate it as best they can.
Same here. You know, I'm muting myself because my neighbors decided to do the drilling today. See, so I will be, it's a good thing actually, because I want you to talk more. But,
Difficult.
you know what, also, I think my followers who are mostly like Russian speakers, but English teachers, love British accents because the British accent is something that is taught at schools and unis, you know, and this is what is like the model accent, all right? So let's talk about some of the varieties.
Yeah.
In the place where you live, in Spain, how often can you stumble upon a variety of English accents? I mean, native speaker accents.
Wow. To stumble upon them. I mean, you'll meet English speakers from the United States here, from the UK, from Ireland. So yeah, I've definitely met them, and you know, immediately, you know, obviously I recognize the accent. So yeah, it's not difficult to find them overseas as well. But
even in
you know,
Russia, can you believe that? I was like a uni student back in 2011, okay? And we had a few Irish people come to Belgrade State University from the Emerald University, okay? College of Arts, I think. And they would teach our teachers and students English. And I was so mesmerized, first of all, by the personality, you know, second of all, by the English they speak and how beautiful and melodic it is. That's what I love about your accent. And, you know, and they were so likable, approachable, and I would even record some of the lectures, you know, back in the day. So this is where I got acquainted with the Irish accent. Okay. So, anyways, do you think we shall?
yes. I've heard that word used a lot
Yeah,
actually,
yeah,
melodic.
for sure.
Yeah, and it's strange to me. I suppose because it's my accent, I don't hear it as melodic, but it's a word I hear mentioned quite a lot.
By the way, guys, those who are watching and watching on demand, please let us know if you find John's accent melodic. How do you find it? What comes to your mind, okay, when you hear John's English? Because to me, it's really beautiful, like pleasant on the ears, as they say. Shall we talk a little bit about the varieties generally, or shall we start with the Irish English? Because, you know, I'm chomping at the bit, actually.
Yeah, I mean, we could look at the other varieties. I mean, and why there
Yes.
are other varieties. First of all, I suppose the important thing to remember is that English didn't just start to grow in different parts of the world. The language traveled. So, you know, why do they speak English in Australia? It's because the UK Empire obviously spread out and traveled around the world, and this is how English grew, and this is how English developed different dialects, different accents, because of its distance from the UK itself. So it isn't that, you know, just these countries decided we will speak like this. You know, that's not how it works. And if Russian was to travel, it would happen also. You know, it would change, I'm sure, if it was, you know, to be spoken in other
Agreed.
parts of the
But
world.
still, you know, people might ask you questions like, wait, John, take England, for example, not a big country, right? It's just like, you know, Britain generally is an island, right? So again, one island, not a big distance, but people still speak different varieties, even like 20 miles away, you know?
Yeah, as you travel, from south to north, from north to south, it changes dramatically. You know, there are 40 dialects, according to phonologists in the UK, and that's almost one per
Mm-hmm.
county, because the UK is into counties, just like Ireland is divided into counties as well. We actually have
Oh,
32 counties, but officially there are about 4 or 5 dialects. But actually, if you ask some people, they could imitate a different accent from
in
each
Ireland.
county also. In Ireland, a small country, country, and we can speak
Wow.
differently in
By
each
the way,
county.
speaking of your accent, look what folks got to say. Juicy. My friend from the USA says Irish accent sounds sexy. Then listen, the cranberries come to my mind and a bit of French. You see? Yes, even a bit of
Bit of
French. It's
French.
quite interesting. You know what, by the way, I like about your accent is
I
this
love it.
very distinctive R. It's different from American. And we're going to talk about that for sure, right?
Yeah, we're going to talk about that actually. Well, that's coming up a bit later when we talk
Yeah,
about
correct.
pronunciation. Yeah,
So going back,
um, that's
uh,
yeah.
I heard this
Going back
theory
again.
that English in England and Wales and Scotland is a patchwork of accents because roads used to be very bad. People didn't travel much, so they created their own communities, didn't talk for a long time, hence the accents. How true is that?
You mean because they
Yeah,
couldn't
kinda.
they
Yeah,
were
yeah.
isolated basically, you're saying? Yeah, and that's a good place to start with Irish English. As some people asked me, I think I'm not sure if it was one of your followers or mine, why does it sound so different to British English? Um, uh, and the what people maybe don't know is that the original language in Ireland wasn't English. So, I mean, you can go back as far as, let's go back with a bit of a history lesson first, right? Um, so in 1169, which is the 12th century, okay, 1169, that's how far back this goes. The Anglo-Normans came over from Wales. Funny you should mention Wales. They came over to the east coast of Ireland, and they were the first settlement of 400 soldiers to arrive with
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
the English language, basically. Okay, and then it spread from there. But then in 1171, King Henry II, that time, he wasn't very happy with the way things were going, and he said, "Okay, we're going to make English the official language here. Everyone, you must all speak English." Okay, so it was very much imposed on Irish people, and they suddenly had to learn it. But then, as time progressed, most of like actually what happens nowadays, a lot of our teachers are maybe not native English speakers, but they're fantastic teachers. And that actually happened originally in Ireland as well. So most of the teachers of English were native Irish people. So what you're actually learning wasn't coming from maybe a native British speaker. Um, that's the first influence. But the second influence was actually our native
Mm-hmm.
tongue was Irish, or Gaelic. We
Right.
call it Gaelic or Irish. And funny you mentioned the R sound, because that very much it didn't come from American English. In fact, American English is maybe more a result of us going to
Interesting.
the United States. And so that R pronunciation, which is not in all parts of the UK. It actually is used by some parts of the UK. People think it's not. You will hear it in some parts of the UK. So yeah, so that's how we started speaking English. It was very much imposed upon us. Nowadays we don't mind because obviously it's very useful to be an English speaker in the world. But nowadays you can call it maybe Hiberno English, okay, which comes from Hibernia. Hibernia is the old word for winter, which was the name given to Ireland because it was so cold. Okay, and now we have regional variations, north and south. Quite different in the north to the south, actually, as well. And there were big plantations in the north where British people were sent to settle in the north. More so than other parts.
And here we go. Yeah, and here we go, speaking English as native speakers for sure, right? And that's what makes English beautiful. It started off there in England, obviously with the advent of conquests, right, and everything, but then it spread. But I have to also pick up on what you said and mention that from what I remember from my British studies class, because I did a major in English at uni, we were told that English used to be rhotic up until the Shakespearean times. You know, so Shakespeare spoke with his R's. So he would say like car, park, you know, and stuff like that. And then it just went away.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's in fact, Shakespearean language, you know, by the majority of the UK, I mean, that's kind of frowned upon even to use it, or seen as very, say, uppity, you know, to use it. So yeah, it's interesting how it changes.
Well, it begs the question, since obviously we all know, especially language teachers, that English is a patchwork of accents, and we're fine with that, you know, tune our ear to different accents. How do you feel being a native speaker about that? Is it a blessing for you to be surrounded by such a variety of English accents, or a curse, or both?
Oh yeah, I mean, I feel privileged to have grown up around so many. Like I was exposed to so many different accents right throughout. I think Irish people in particular, because we grew up with the accents within our own country, and on top of that, we watched UK TV and British TV. We were completely immersed in accents from a very early age. So I have a good ear, I think, as a result. I was able to imitate imitate accents from a very young age. In fact, you know, my parents told me to stop doing it. I was doing it so often. So, you know, I was mimicking my relatives. I had relatives from Canada, relatives from the States, relatives from the UK. Irish people travel. That's the nature of Irish people. Yeah, I was completely exposed to so many different accents from a very young age. Yeah.
But which of these, the ones that you get to hear or used to hear, is the most pleasant on the ear for you? I mean, among native speaker accents.
Stan, I would say my favorite accent would have to be Australian accent. I feel like it just is very relaxing to me when I hear someone speak with the Australian accent, and it's soft to me as well. And I also
brekkie, brekkie, like hey mister, yeah, and stuff like that. They'd like to say. I have a friend from Australia, and I've been actually begging him to come and stream with me too, because he's an awesome guy. But, you know, he's camera shy, he says, but we'll get him for sure. Maybe one day even have, you know, a stream together. By the way, John, a question from Anastasia. She asks, can you imitate Scottish accent?
Scottish accent. Let me channel let me channel someone I know who's Scottish. Yes, if you give me something to say, I can certainly speak with a Scottish accent. There's no, what I normally try to do is actually try to channel someone that I know who speaks like that. And right now I'm thinking of the first leader of Scotland. And I'm channeling her. I'm actually doing the kind of the head movements that she does as well.
I like it.
So this is what this is what I do, is I actually try and recall that person speaking, and also then there's certain shapes of the mouth as well which change as you do it, and it's what works for me. But when I try to recall,
loved it. You almost crushed it. You know what I liked was your, like you said, no, like not no, but no, like no. This, so it's not a diphthong when you say like words like that, like home, no. Cool.
Yeah, the diphthongs kind of differ radically as you go through each accent. Yeah, and they're one of the most interesting parts.
By the way, one of the questions related to this was, what do you think of, for example, I think you have seen and heard Russians speak English, right? Would you say that there is this obsession with non-natives trying to acquire a native accent? What do you make of it? Does it make sense? How important is that? Or is it just a good idea to neutralize your accents since, you know, there's such a variety of accents?
The first thing I would say is that it's very easy for a native speaker to pick up on it. It's almost impossible for you, you know, if you're trying to hide yourself, okay, the real you, I would say it's virtually impossible, because there will always be some little intricacy that a native speaker will hear and say, no, you're not a native speaker. So there's the bad news first for you. If you were looking for some kind of you know, way to hide, and I think there is too much focus basically on that. You know, a lot of students who are starting out, they're more focused on that rather than their fluency, and the fluency needs to come first. But you know, choose an accent that you enjoy speaking. That's fine. But you know, you can certainly try to perfect it as the years go by. You know, but it takes a long time to sound like you know, even, you know, if I was to learn Russian, it would take me a long time to learn all the different intricacies of the pronunciation.
So we probably need to keep this sort of you know, our own personality while we speak, but at the same time be of course understandable, right? People need to understand us. That's what matters most, especially for learners of Russian.
Yeah, and I mean, I've seen the American flag on your profile, and it's very much to my ear. I can hear your pronunciation is very American, and you know, the important thing is that the communication is there, so all, you know, English speakers can communicate without any breakdowns. Basically, is what we should be aiming. So there's, you know, no miscommunication.
It's important to get your message across. But here comes the loaded question, but I need you to answer exactly what you think. If you didn't know that I came from Russia, where do you think I was from with my accent? I always ask this question. Think about that. Be honest. I need honesty.
Yeah, I would have gone North America. You know, I don't know, North America.
But still, I'm sure that there are some slip-ups, and sometimes you're like, maybe he probably just went to live there, but he wasn't born there, right? I think that's the picture you're getting about me. Not like, obviously, I'm a native speaker. Of course not, yeah? You feel that I'm gravitating towards that kind of accent, but still there are some things that give me away, right?
some, yeah, there are some things that will give you away, certain things that I can
Right.
hear from Russian, actually. So there may be, there this kind of sudden stop sometimes with Russian where you maybe stop short a
Right,
bit
right.
faster than we would
Yeah,
in
the
English,
melody
you
of
know.
the speech itself, I
So,
would say, right? Exactly. You see, so
yeah.
the main takeaway from this, if you're a learner of English, the first thing to do for sure is being able to understand and understood, right? Then, if you feel like it, pick it up. Yeah, try to listen to different accents, to your to different Englishes. But if you're a teacher, I think what I believe is that at least you need to try to neutralize your accent. So again, you sound pleasant on the ear, and then if needs be, or if you want, you can still try to like acquire at least a native sound and accent again if you really want it, I would say, right? I actually wanted this, and I have a lot of American friends, hence my accent. You see, like I listen to them, I copy them, I do shadowing, so for me it kind of matters. Okay, I think that it's still some sort of a business card for a non-native English teacher, I would say.
And even my own accent is neutralized. I was a journalist, so I'm trained in that. So broadcast journalism, I had to train, speak in a very particular way. I was actually my boss encouraged me to be more British in my pronunciation. So my students would often have said to me, "Why, teacher, why can I understand you, but I
Right.
can't understand
Speech
other
grading.
people?"
Hmm.
And yeah, so and if I was to speak with a very thick accent from Dublin or from the
Hmm.
west of Ireland, um, it certainly would be more difficult for my students to. I might
Right.
have less students as well. So teachers have to you know uh, speak in a very neutral way so that students can understand. But then as my students get better, I start to speak faster, and I also throw in some accents to challenge them.
Do
That's
you
that's the
mostly
way it's
teach
done.
elementary students or like advanced or like all age ranges and levels?
All age ranges and levels. The majority of people I have would be adults who are,
Mhm. Good.
pre-intermediate up to
Also,
advanced.
I remember, or maybe you told me that you took CELTA, did you? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's a requirement now. That's the minimum requirement for teachers in Ireland and UK. Back in
Yeah.
the day, it was TEFL, which I would have done 20 years ago, and then CELTA is the
Yeah. In
qualification
Russia, a
required.
lot of teachers like taking CELTA too. It helps to like spice up your teaching, make sure that you're really up to the task, you know. Some teachers like the certificate itself, all right? Are you speaking slower than usual? Helen asks. Are you now speaking slower than usual?
Um, I'm speaking. I probably um, no. I mean, this would be how I would speak. But with my friends, I think people say I do speak faster with my friends. Yeah. So maybe I'm speaking at the level for my followers as well. So
Right,
I'm
right.
thinking of them as well.
Well, the bulk of my following are like language teachers, mostly non-natives, so they will understand any speed, you know, just so you know. Anyways, I think it's time to dive right into Irish English. We have so many interesting questions. Guys, please let us know also what your favorite English is if you didn't let us know in the comment section. And also ask questions. One of the questions is, where are you from? Again, John is from Ireland originally, Dublin, County Kildare, right? Kildare. Yeah, yeah,
County Kildare. That's right.
yeah.
Yeah.
I come
Lovely
from
County
Russia,
Kildare.
Belgorod. It's like it borders Ukraine. Okay, so we're gonna start with the first question. First of all, I kind of prepared because I'm actually a accents aficionado. You know, I like accents. I used to watch the X Factor all of the seasons. You know, the British, American, Australian. For me, it's like a jam. You know, so I did some digging And first I decided to brainstorm some of the names, Hollywood actors I know, okay? And I realized that I know a lot, but most prominent ones would be Cillian Murphy, right? The one from Peaky Blinders.
Yeah.
Then Colin Farrell, by the way, comes from Dublin too, who starred in Alexander, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. Robert Sheehan, do I get the name right? Robert Sheehan from Misfits. Sheehan, interesting.
Sheehan.
So, and then Jonathan Mayers from The Tudors. And it begs a very big question, okay, which also some of my colleagues asked. Listen, the question is as follows. Just curious, why are Irish names so difficult to read and pronounce? They don't match the letters at all. For example, the name, which is spelled like Saoirse, in fact sounds Saoirse. Are there any letter combinations that stand for particular sounds? Combinations that stand for particular sounds. How do you wrap your head around those spellings?
Yeah, I mean that one you just mentioned is A-O-I, and that represents E sound.
A-O-I.
Yeah, A-O-I is E.
Okay, so you mean A-O-I? Oh gosh, give me a moment. A-O-I equals E, like that, right? You can't see it yet, I guess.
See that.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, it has the E sound.
Then it makes sense. So here.
Not F, not F, but C. So it's the long E. The interesting thing, though, to point out is that this is not English. So it's an interesting question, because maybe somebody who's watching the live could even answer this question now, based on what I said earlier about the history of Ireland. The names, the reason they sound so different
because
is why.
People moved. Yeah.
Well, we didn't move. We were there.
Yeah, and then
the British
imposed,
came.
Yes, they imposed.
Yeah. Before the British came, we were Irish speakers with Irish names. We weren't English speakers. We didn't have English names. That's the part that people find confusing as, oh, why is that? Why are those names so difficult to pronounce? Why are they spelled so strangely? It's a different language. American English now has a number of those Irish names, and they've changed the spelling. So my name in the Irish language is Sean, which is S-E-A-N.
Not John, Sean, right?
There, Sean. So it's not anyway similar to John. It sounds a little bit like John, but it's Sean. And American English, because they had difficulties pronouncing these words, they've changed a lot of these, and they now, for example, use Sean.
Right.
Sean. Okay. And this, you'll see this very commonly with names now. Colleen is a very common one as well. That comes from the Irish word for girl. So Colleen is a girl in the Irish language. So that's the answer. That's why the spelling is different. That's why they may be difficult to pronounce, because
that explains it for sure. We just thought that you would try to adapt, a little bit some of those names, but no dice. Then we're gonna go through questions quickly, because as far as I know, you're a very busy guy. Okay, so we can't spend like 2 hours like I usually do answering all of the questions. Yes, because it's the Gaelic language, right? Gaelic, right?
Yeah.
So to understand how to read the name correctly, you need to know your way around the Gaelic you know, spelling, pronunciation, word combinations, and it's a longer question than we have time for. Now, quite a good question, which might seem obvious, but still intriguing. Listen, Angelina asks, is there any difference between accents in the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland? Because I think we won't be able to discern if you speak Irish and they speak Northern Irish English. Let's put it that way.
In terms of accents, yeah, big difference in accents. Some people, like if you look at Dublin and Belfast as the two examples, big differences. A lot of that came again from history and plantations. A lot of what were called Ulster Scots were planted in Northern Ireland, so they actually came over from Scotland. And Scottish accent has many parallels with Northern Irish. So Scotland, and you know, sometimes someone does a Northern Irish accent. What are you saying? That's a Scottish accent. So they can be, if you're a linguist, you'll hear the differences, but they can quite sound quite similar. So that's the historic context of why.
But can you like maybe think of at least one or two differences that are very like discernible, I would say?
Yeah. Let's look at this. This is my mouth. Okay, my mouth. In the south we say mouth, and in Dublin it's a bit more aggressive. Mouth. And they don't pronounce that TH. It's a kind of an aggressive no to the Brits.
So more aggressive,
mouth. Because and the TH. Let's look at the TH there. This is a good time to mention it, because the TH is very much, like I said, used in with the T sound in Ireland. And it's believed that we found it too formal to use okay, and it reminded us of that British colonialism and the British coming into our country. So we said mouth.
There. You wouldn't say there, you would say there. Yeah, there's some guys there. Yeah, like there.
There, yeah, and there, we wouldn't say there. Again, that's the or. Okay, the or sound. So, but yeah, the combination of issues regarding formality and our own native tongue, which was Irish, those two things combined to create our own accents and our own pronunciation. And equaled with your point, our distance from native speakers themselves, who were all across the Irish Sea. So we were separated from them, and any language that's separated in that way will start to develop its own little
twang,
rules and
they're all little twang, I would say.
Exactly.
So again, to sum it up,
but I'll just finish that with mouth. Okay, as you travel up to the north of Ireland, it becomes mouth. Mouth.
Yeah, sounds a lot like the Scottish accent to me. You know, I mean, when the way they speak in Belfast. By the way, so again, to sum it up, more intense vowels, and also the sound words pronounced with the and the can be pronounced with a t and d sounds, right? How about this one? By the way, I've learned from my humble experience that some of you might say oi instead of I. For example, night, Irish, I like it. Is that true?
Yeah, I have that here as well. That's very Dublin, which is on the east coast of Ireland. For example, I would say price, but as you go into the thick Dublin accent, Dublin itself is divided into two accents, crazily enough. But a lot of them would say
Yeah.
price, the price, and I would say the price, the price. So it's the oi changes. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
right.
So
I
no
to oi.
I in the Dublin part of your I would say Ireland generally. Yeah.
No, no, because strangely enough, Dublin is divided into kind of like a posh side and a not
Wow.
so posh side. So let's call it that. So you have like a working class part of Dublin, and then the more affluent part of Dublin. So the accents tend to be quite connected to how well off
So
you
is it
are.
safe to say that you also have like general Irish, you know, and some like provincial Irish, you know, working class Irish?
Uh, in terms of
Right.
accents, yeah, well, it's not so cutthroat, or sorry, not so easy, to say one way or the other, because even say the working class accent in Dublin would be different to it in, Cork or in the west of Ireland. So, but certainly it does, yeah, certainly it does. Class tends
Mm,
to have an effect on your
very
accent.
interesting. Guys, if you find this information new, just leave a thumbs up. Let us know that you find it intriguing. Okay. One more thing that I kind of asked to mention was this R sound. I find that you pronounce it very differently from Americans. So, what is so special about the R in Ireland?
Mm. Because it's so prominent in the Irish language, and it's so dominant in the sounds of the pronunciation in the Irish language. That's why it would be more dominant and stronger, and maybe it sounds a bit more aggressive than it would by the American English version, or
Mm-hmm.
certainly by British English. Um, I have a word on my stories at the moment, which is
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
tired, tired. Um, Students sometimes would say tired when they're unsure of the pronunciation. But in official British pronunciation, there's
Yeah.
no R sound at all. It's the schwa, which is in the middle,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
tired, tired. Um, Whereas in American English, we do pronounce that
Mm-hmm.
R, tired. So that's why a lot of people ask, why do I hear the pronunciation both American and a UK pronunciation in Ireland? It's not that we took some American English,
They
it's
took.
that actually we sent.
By the way, I came up with
Yeah.
this little list of words that have this R sound. Can you pronounce it as naturally as possible? I just sent it into the chat.
Okay. Yeah. I'll pronounce them. Yeah. Park, car, darts, yard, tardy, literally,
Very,
firefly.
very beautiful. Really loving it. Well, that concludes the pronunciation part, I guess, because you also answered the question that you have a good ear for languages and accents, and we heard that you modeling Scottish accents. Oh, one more question though, even two. One of them was, have you watched the film Snatch, starring Brad Pitt, because he imitated the Irish accent? How did you like it?
Yeah. In general, they get it wrong.
Because you know what? Once I got this question, I did some digging and I learned that a lot of people actually said he nailed it, like really beautiful. But you see, some of you would beg to differ. What exactly went wrong?
Yeah. I mean, in general, they they tend to go for. I mean, some actors get it right, but usually, an Irish native speaker will pick up on, little things that they get wrong. Uh, it's a difficult one to nail, as you say. Um, the There are so many attempts made at it that they always go for this
Mm,
the
mm,
West of Ireland version. And there, you know, I almost think that it might be easier to actually go with the Dublin accent, in terms of, you know, movies and things like that. But I can't say to you what exactly he did wrong in that. You know, I can't recall, you know, particular things that he said. Or, it's a long time since I saw that.
I haven't watched it, but I think, you know, you all made me watch it, so I'm gonna really watch it. One more thing. There are some kind of guidebooks on pronunciation, and since we're like language aficionados, we like to explore accents. So one of them was recommended. It's called You Say Potato by Ben Crystal. I think it's about the British accents. As far as America is concerned, I know there's this good docu-series called Do You Speak American? It's a 3-part series, and it's all about the accents and varieties of America, because it's also a patchwork of accents, which adds more value to English and beauty. As far as Irish accents are concerned, are there any guidebooks, apart from websites and some sort of, you know, handouts, where we can like literally look at the map and see that that's how you pronounce the word mother or car?
Yeah, no, I don't know of any guidebooks. It's the short answer. I'm sure there are some. You know, I did find some very interesting papers online, actually, on, you know, even some thesis that some students had done on the language, how it developed. So if you're interested in that, there are some very interesting articles, because it goes through Irish history as well. You know, we have a very colorful history
Oh
that
yeah,
people maybe don't
for sure.
realize.
Hence the live stream, because I'm gonna spread this live stream all over YouTube, our Russian social network Vkontakte, VK we call it. It's like Facebook. A lot of people gonna see you, okay? And I'm gonna obviously include links to your page, you know, so you might expect even some students. I hope so. Look, also we got a lot of questions concerning grammar and vocabulary, but I will try to encapsulate them into like one but big question, maybe a few. First of all,
Yeah.
some of the by the way, Helen asks, I watched Gregory's Girl and didn't get so much of the speech. You see, I don't know it too much. I can understand, because sometimes you're like, wow, beautiful. Where were you all this time? I want to like study you. Some accents are very difficult in the Russian ear, because you know what? I would say that in Russia, we're not that accent aware. I would say that wherever you go in Russia, whatever like part, you will still understand everyone. In terms of lexis, it will be very different. You know, not very, okay, it would be different, I would say. There are certain words that we use in the southern part and they use in the northern part. But in terms of pronunciation, you will still be understood and you will understand. So it's not that big of a problem, I would say. Also, just a moment. Do Irish people smile less than Americans? How do you perceive their cultural feature to smile all the time?
Yeah, we often we definitely often take the mickey, or
Yeah.
this about Americans, and hey, have a nice day, everybody. And it's you know, even my relatives would be from the States and from Canada, they would be more smiley than us. I don't know, maybe it's because Irish people grew up in such bad weather.
Always grumpy because of the gloomy sky, right? Yeah, Anastasia adds, we have slight pronunciation differences in Russian, but not so many. Yeah, it's not that big. And you know what? If you don't travel much across Russia, you won't be even able to pinpoint where exactly the person comes from. You will be like, you sound a bit different. You pronounce words a bit differently, you know, but it's not that different as in the case with English, okay? Not that, even though Russia is the biggest country on earth, it's like common knowledge. So yet, you know, we are like very much the same, I'd say. So the next question is, what are the main and most interesting peculiarities of the Irish English grammar? Something that really sticks out.
Yeah. Yeah, very interesting, because you can answer this question with why, or sorry, the why question, like for each of these things I'm going to mention, is because we were originally spoke the Irish language. The first thing is stative verbs. You know what stative verbs are, and they can be used with progressive
But not
in
just
Ireland sometimes.
because you're
Okay,
emphatic, just
so
casually, you mean? Yeah? Not because you're being emotional. Like in America, they could say, I'm not understanding you. Just because they want to make sure.
yeah,
Yeah?
or I saw one of your followers, I think, mentioned how in the new Sex and the City, I forget the name of the new Sex and the City, she heard someone say,
Yeah, yeah,
I'm hearing you.
yeah.
You're not hearing me. Okay. Um, and it's really common in Ireland in our speak to use that. But that's becoming quite common in all forms of English. You can also say this is belong
Mm-hmm.
to me. This is
Mm-hmm.
belong to me. Which again comes from the Irish language, that structure. This is
So this
belong to
is
me,
belonged,
rather than this
belonged,
belongs
right?
to me. No, no,
But this
just
is,
belong. Just belong.
yeah? Not like this belongs to
Sorry?
me, but this is belong to me.
Yeah. Now you can say this is belong to me, and you can say this is
Mm,
belonging to me.
good to know.
And again though, it's because in the Irish language, if you translate directly,
Mm.
that's what it is. So any of those strange kind of structures we have. Another one would be after. This is
Yes.
my favorite one, because um, we say after, I'm
Yes. My
after leaving
question.
the
Mm-hmm.
house. So it's very easy to understand this one. I've
Mm-hmm.
just left the house. Okay, I'm after leaving the house. Again, we would say taréis in Irish. Taréis means after. So you could say time taréis imacht. I'm after leaving. So that's where it comes from, and it's something that possibly is spreading in English as well
I've
now
heard it
because we
used.
use it.
I actually heard
And
it
then
used from Irish speakers, even in
yeah, you
Belgrade
heard,
when they came. I was like, he was saying, okay, I'm after teaching, and then I'm gonna go. I'm like, I'm after teaching? What did you mean? You know, at that time I didn't get it. So, and then I asked him, he said, well, I've just
yeah,
done, like my work is done and like I'm now free. And I'm like, wow, talk about an interesting, grammar peculiarity. But then I Googled and I learned it was Irish, you know?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's an interesting one. And I have one other to mention, which is called clefting. I'm sure you've heard of clefting. Clefting, you could say, is, I mean, the structure, but here we're messing things around again because of the Irish
Mm-hmm.
language and the structure. And sometimes the Irish language is actually more similar to Latin structure than English itself. It's not similar to English in any way at all. That's what surprises most people, is that Irish is no way similar to English. It's very unique. So you may hear people say, it was very well that he took
Mm.
it.
Okay.
Okay, so it's like a complete switch structure. Or is it stupid that you are? Is it stupid that you are? Yeah. You can hear a little bit of that. The
You know
Latin. Can you
what?
hear
This
the
is
Latin?
looks a lot like Russian actually, because for example, we can take a sentence, I went to the woods. And if I were to say it in Russian, but to use English so you could understand, we could say, went to the woods I to the woods went. You see, went I to the woods I went. So in Irish, you also
Yeah,
have a hint of it, yeah? You can also say, to the woods I went. I to the
yeah,
woods, right?
yeah.
Yeah,
To the
but
woods
still,
we
in English,
go.
sometimes it happens too, is some sort of inversion. So it's this guy from the Star Wars, right? Sometimes it can sound
Yeah,
like that. Remember that Master Yoda, yeah? English you need to learn.
Yes, exactly.
Right? Uh,
Exactly. So, and then in terms of vocabulary,
Next question.
or slang, some students did ask me, yeah, for some words that may be unique to us. The cupboard in British English, the cupboard. Any idea what some Irish
Covered
people call it?
or coward, you said. Ah, cupboard, cupboard.
Cupboard,
Well, a
cupboard.
cupboard is this like, place for like, cups and everything. No, for plates, isn't it? So,
Yeah, yeah. But any idea what vocabulary we gave it in
by the way,
Irish?
guys, any ideas? I'm a bit confused.
We actually use the Irish language word press, which
Mm.
Press. But what again, it's come from the
So
Irish language.
press instead of cupboard.
Um,
Uh,
yeah. But it's not universal, but you will hear people say press. Yeah, it's in the
wow.
press.
Noted.
Another one would be one student pointed out that Scottish often say, I'm going shopping, I'm getting the messages. Okay, did you get the messages? Where are the messages? I particularly, my family didn't use it, but I know some people who often said,
In Ireland,
I'm getting the messages.
not just in Scotland.
Yeah. No, it came
Wow.
over. It
So
traveled.
the messages would mean shopping. Wow. Talk about a variety of words and phrases. Yeah, you can pick up as a language learner. Wow. Any other like particular?
And I'll give you, a very interesting one is the British slang that exists now for the mouth. Do you know the British slang for the mouth?
Gob, like, but it's gob. Yeah.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Well done. Yeah. Guess where that comes from?
Now I get it. So you could say, I'm gobsmacked, for example.
Irish.
Yeah.
Gobsmacked, excellent. Yeah, and that gob is an Irish word. So gob is the Irish word for the beak on the bird.
So it looks like I haven't forgotten my British English, because I used to be a fan of like literally British. I would speak that way, but now I joined the dark side, so to speak. But I'm really happy that we're close in this respect. Irish English is a bit closer to American English. By the way, what about this word that I also came across and I decided to write down? Crack. You call it crack, like CRAIC, which means good or fun time. Like, it was a crack. Yeah, it was a good crack.
Yeah, this one's really interesting because if you research this word, or first of all, if you don't research this word, you'll tell people, oh, that's an Irish language word that we gave to the English language. Actually, after some research, it came and it traveled and turned into an Irish word with Irish spelling, CRAIC. Irish people adopted it as something that means fun. It can also be used with what's the crack, which means what's happening. What's the crack? Any crack? Any crack? You say to someone when you're asking them any news? Any news? Or we had a lot of crack last night. Okay, so we had good crack last night. We had fun last night. So it can mean fun.
Yeah, but in American English, crack is a type of drug, so it's a bit confusing. Any crack?
Yeah. So that will be CRACK. So it's the spelling is important.
Exactly. How about grand? I've heard Irish people say that's grand. That's grand. Yeah.
Yeah, this is very confusing for especially Latin language speakers. It's very confusing because grand will mean large or something like that. But it has two meanings in Irish, English, or in even in UK English. The first one would be if I said I'm grand, you said how are you, I say I'm grand. That's the most common response, would you believe, in Ireland. The most common response is I'm grand. And it's actually a very neutral response because we don't want to discuss our emotions. We got that from the British. We don't want to discuss our emotions. And we say I'm grand. Okay, which means I'm fine and no further discussion. I'm not going to tell you everything that's going on in my life.
The amazing example, by the way, when you use it in such examples, it's getting like clearer, because when you say, like, for example, crack or grand just as a separate word, you don't understand where to use it exactly. Put it into context, you can play with the word. And that's what I love.
Interestingly, though, we don't use it as a question. Like, for example, the same thing with fine. You don't say, are you fine? You don't say, are you grand? But you can say it in the affirmative.
Okay. By the way, I also heard that you might answer, like, for example, are you okay? I am, instead of yes or no. I am. Is it fine? It is. Like, you avoid saying yes or no. You would rather say the contracted version, right?
Yes, and we also love tag questions as well at the end. So you won't have a drink, will you? So I'm using the negative to tell you your response before you've given me your response. Okay, so it's not raining, is it? We love those tag questions in Ireland, and it's very much a kind of a filler as well. We don't like silence, and we're filling the end part and making that question even longer. You know, waiting for you to give me something back, and I'm filling in any awkward silence.
Agreed. Yeah, those lulls in the conversation, as they say. Yeah, a lull, right? Yeah, I heard grand in the meaning of great. For example, I passed my exam. Grand. You can also like use it like that. Yeah, like grand. Yeah, I passed my exam. Grand.
Not in Ireland.
Good question.
No, maybe in the States, maybe. I have heard grand, of course, used in other ways in English. So he made a grand entrance. Okay, he made a big entrance. The palace was grand. Okay, which means it was, you know, very big, very elaborate.
Good to know. We have been talking for an hour. I can't believe it. I hope we can take away 5 or 10 minutes tops of your time, John, because we have 2 more questions.
Yeah,
5 minutes. So a quick question
yeah.
first. I like it. One of you asks, do you teach students to speak like an Irish when you teach, or you try to like grade your speech and teach the classics, so to speak? No. Do you teach them Irish English when you teach them, or you try to teach British English generally when you teach students who don't speak it as a native language?
Yeah, I mean that's an easy thing to do because we speak British English. I mean, I learned British English. My spelling is British English. In fact, you know, everything about Ireland, the misconception is that, you know, we have this unique form of English. We don't. We speak British English, and we have little variations of it in terms of maybe our slang or our pronunciation. So I can quite comfortably, you know, teach British English to my students, but I often mention American English when, of course, we're, you know, talking about, you know, vocabulary differences, pronunciation differences, and because it's really important that, like you said at the beginning, that you can communicate and also understand if someone says the boot of the car or the trunk of the car. No, it's not in the boot, it's in the trunk. So this is where students forget that it is important to know both. So, you know, you might say, okay, I'm only learning British English. That is the only one. The important thing is that you can understand every conversation that you're involved in. surely that's what students would like to have, is that they can speak to any English speaker and be able to communicate effectively. That should be the goal, not to, okay, I'm only going to do this, I'm only going to do that. That's too black and white. You need to be aware.
Right, especially since since we're like global citizens, and you're the epitome of it. You moved house, right? By the way, one of the followers says, I highly recommend John. Could not agree more, because that's what I like about you. You're not just a native speaker. You're, first of all, certified. Second of all, very much conscientious and aware of all the varieties. And you always give context, okay? So kudos to you for that, for sure. Last quick question, last question. If we go to Ireland, one or two things we should know before we go to Ireland about your culture, or maybe some things that we should take into consideration.
Take into consideration that, first of all, you're going to get wet.
That's true. Yeah, take
bring
a brolly.
Bring an umbrella.
Yeah, take a brolly.
Bring an umbrella. Yeah. I have a lot of students who still live there, and you know, they've moved there, and they're maybe not in love with the weather, but they're in love with culture, they're in love with people, and that's why they stay. You know, they're there primarily for those reasons, not for the weather. It's a very I felt privileged to grow up there. I've had a very you know, good life with good friends. People are good. We're accommodating. You know, we're very open-minded society now as well. Ireland has advanced over the years. So it's a place where you can go be yourself as well. And for the most part, we have good government as well. What you need to be prepared for is public services, I suppose. We're not the most, despite what you know, you might see in terms of league tables of European countries, we are one of the most productive countries in the world. But we're quite shocking when it comes to public transport. I mean, we don't even have train to our main airport in Dublin. We don't have an underground system, which really tends to chock-a-block our capital city, and it's all cars and buses, you know. Yeah, and in terms of speaking, I would say go there with an open mind, because you know, you're gonna expose your ears to some accents that you haven't heard before. But this is what I'm doing right now. I'm in one of the most fast-speaking Spanish areas, where apparently I'm in the worst place to learn Spanish, because they speak so fast. I came here with none of the language. Yeah, push yourself outside of your comfort zones. When you want to learn, you have to push yourself outside.
Well, amen to that. I agree, definitely. Being able to learn is what we really need to learn as well. Alrighty then, I think it turned out extremely insightful. We gleaned so much insight and took so many takeaways from your talk today. I hope you guys enjoyed. John, as you can see, I always invite people who are up to the task, who are class acts, and here we met another one. So thank you so much, John. I was really happy to finally go live with you, and I think it even helped us forge a better bond, a stronger bond together, and I hope it's not the last one, okay? We might go live one day too, right?
Yeah.
Alrighty then. I'm gonna
yeah. And thanks a lot, Dan, for inviting me.
It's such an honor, okay? So thank you so much, guys. Thank you, John. I hope you learned a few things. Just let us know in the comment section below if it was really interesting, insightful, what things you could take away from this, whether you actually have been to Ireland, because I know some of you that you have gone there, you have been there before. Okay? All right. thank you so much, and have a great day, guys. Thank you, John. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye, guys.